Why has this digital store only made one sale in 2023? If you sell digital on Etsy in any niche, you've got to watch this video. I'm going to take you through step by step with this store as an example, all the major failing points in this store and for so many digital stores on Etsy. The mistakes that you guys are making with digital stores are repeated over and over and over again. Once we look into this store, you're going to see these mistakes that I point out to you, and you will then be able to make sure with your own store, as you build and grow on Etsy, you don't make the same mistakes and you are able to make more sales. Let's get into this store. Let's find out all the problems and why it's only made one sale. Right then, here we are in the store. It's called Hang Time Gallery, and we have to be detectives. As you know from the first review that I did a couple of weeks ago, I'm going to show you guys categorically why this store's not selling. If you want to know and learn how to make digital sales on Etsy, follow and learn what I'm teaching you here in this review. So the very first thing we're going to look at, as we scroll down the store front, so the front of the store with all the products, what do you think the problem is? We're looking at these products here. We've got TVs, we've got fruit, we've got someone standing in a doorway, we've got a nighttime scene, we've got flowers, we've got sort of a farmhouse, we've got a lake or something like that, we've got graffiti style. What's the underlying problem here? The underlying problem here is this store is what I would call a general digital store. It has absolutely no focus at all. There's no focus. When Etsy comes into this store, when Etsy looks at this store and starts to take historical imprints of the items the store's selling, how many sales it's got, what the subject matter is, what the keywords are, the titles, the tags, and so on. It looks at this, it has no idea what's going on in this store. This is a general digital download store. So this is absolutely terrible, because if Etsy doesn't know what your store is about and what the content is, it can't recommend you. It's all over the place. So the very first thing the owner of this store has to do is give this store an identity. So you need to have a niche and sub-niche set inside the store. The niche is the subject, so weddings or professions or pets or fishing, whatever it is. The sub-niching down here is your sections. So the sections of your store become the sub-niche. So at the moment, as you can see, it's general. There's no focus. We've got landscapes, animals, pop art, abstract art, flowers, graffiti. It's literally all over the place. There's no focus at all. This needs to be locked down. So the owner of the store needs to decide what amongst all these subjects am I going to now get into? What is my target? What is my niche? And then what are my sub-niches here? So I talk about this all the time. A niche might be dogs, and then your sub-niching inside there might be the top 10 breeds of dog, because obviously people are going to buy downloads and digital work related to the dogs that they own. And obviously if you have the most popular dog breeds content for sale, that means you're more relatable to the dog niche. Do you see what I'm saying? This store has no direction. So this is the first problem with the store. It needs a defined niche and sub-niche set. Let's get on to the second thing wrong with this store. Before we get into the next thing wrong with this digital store, I cannot stress how many stores I see week in, week out in my consultancy like this store. They're all dead, no sales or one or two sales. They've got no direction. If you don't tell Etsy what you're all about, it can't push you to the relevant areas of the site for relevant search queries. The tighter and more defined your Etsy store is, the easier Etsy's job is to push you to the right places, and the easier it is for you to make sales. So this store has a huge task ahead of it. Let's get into the next thing that's wrong with this store. It's a massive one. Okay, the next fundamental thing that's wrong with this store is the lack of items for sale. Digital stores have huge competition. This store with 34 items is absolutely tiny. For this store to be relevant, you need to stick a 0 on that to make it 340. In all seriousness though, this is tiny. The fact that it's a general store, a general digital store, is really bad for discovery, really bad for Etsy to understand what the store's about. But now we see that at 34 items, the views into this store every day will be very low. 5, 10, 15 views. Nothing. Just nothing's happening here. This store needs to have a significant growth plan. So defining the niche and the sub-niches, that's the first thing. Now we need to move into understanding the size of the store. So at minimum, this store needs to be 100 items in size. At minimum, whatever niche it is. And then you need to go beyond that. If you look at digital stores, don't take my word for it. Go and look at digital stores with 5,000, 10,000, 15, 20,000, 50,000 sales. Look at the size of the stores. They're going to be 200, 300, 500, 1,000 items deep in size. This store's being lost. It's just completely being lost in all the competition, and it's never going to get anywhere with 34 items. So as an absolute minimum, get to 100 items. I would move this store beyond 100. I would go for 200 and probably beyond there as well. This is essential. You do this in this store with a niche and sub-niche set, and you're going to start to make sales, I guarantee it. Let's move on to the next point. So let's look at the next major problem in this store that's costing it sales. It's costing it sales. So when you look at the products here, the issue is we don't know exactly what is being sold here. I always say to my clients, if you take away the keywords from the product, do we know exactly what's being sold? And you can't ascertain that. If you take the keywords away from these images, you don't know exactly what's being sold. You don't know if it's a print, you don't know if it's a download, you don't know. There's no context because you've literally got a product photo. Look, you've literally got a product photo with no reference. There's no frame. There's nothing to say that this is a piece of artwork. It could be anything. It could be absolutely anything. So the photography is not getting the meaning of what you are selling. Yes, I can see this is a woman's face. Yes, I can see these are flowers. I mean, this one does have a video, but unless it has a video, these don't have videos, these don't. The customer's not going to know. And you've got to get that meaning across. So the photography needs to be improved drastically. You need to have decent mock-ups, really, really good quality mock-ups, and also use video mock-ups as well to get across exactly what this wall art would look like when it's printed out. I know these are downloads, but the customer doesn't just want to see a rectangle with an image in it. They want to see what it might look like in a living room, in a bedroom, in a hallway. We've got to get this connection over to the buyer. Otherwise the buyer doesn't know what they're looking at, and they're just going to move on and pick a product where the identity is very clear. I hope that makes sense. Let's move on to the final piece. So the final piece of this detective work to find out why this store is not selling is something that, as you guys know, I have a love-hate relationship with, is SEO. But I need to point this out for this store because work needs to be done. Let's just zoom in a bit here, and you can see the keywords here. There's way too much repetition going on here. Graffiti, 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 graffiti. You've only got to mention the word once. You don't need to keep repeating yourself. You're losing so many keywords that you could put in that are different here from the word graffiti. So you need to improve that. Now, another thing here are the tags. If we look at the tags here on the right hand side, you can see again, wall art, wall art, wall art. You are literally losing over 50% of your SEO real estate by all this repetition. This is costing you being eligible for searches in Etsy. So much space is being wasted here. So remember, if you want to understand how to do SEO and improve this, get my video on YouTube, how to do Etsy SEO in 10 minutes. How to do Etsy SEO in 10 minutes. That will explain how to solve this problem. You're literally losing out being eligible for so many searches because there's so much repetition. I hope that makes sense. It's something that a lot of sellers make mistakes with. SEO's got to be to a certain level, a certain standard. It doesn't have to be amazing. You know, I've told you guys so many times, you don't have to get SEO to be stellar. It just has to be competent. Etsy will do the rest. If you've got products in demand, well made, great photos, great video, Etsy will get your items seen. But this SEO is below standard and it needs improvement. So how to do Etsy SEO in 10 minutes. Let's get rid of this repetition in the titles and tags. Let's get you eligible for more searches. I hope you enjoyed this Etsy digital download store review today. I've given you a ton of insight and knowledge into what is required to make an Etsy digital store build and grow and start bringing in those sales. Okay, this is not easy. YouTube makes it easy. Although all these other people that you're watching on YouTube that are just giving out rubbish advice, they're just confusing the matter. This review is a solid insight into what's going on and what so many Etsy stores are like the one that I featured today. They all come to me in the same state, and this work that's needed is sustained. It needs to be consistent, but the results will start to come as you actually gain an identity and a purpose in terms of niching and sub-niching and everything that I've taught you today. So get into my comments. I want to know what you thought about this review. Tell me what you thought. Was there things that you wanted to know that I didn't put in? Did you like the flow, the structure? And also remember, if you want to work with me, don't sit there suffering because you don't know what to do. You don't know what, your store's not working. You need help. Get in touch with me. I'm going to put the link in my description to my discovery call. Discovery calls are 15 minutes. They're free, and it will allow us to connect to each other, and I can then advise you on the best way to work with me. I'll put the link in my description for that. Let me know in the comments what you thought of this. I can't wait to read them. Thanks.